all set?
All set?
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, July 17th at 9:01 a.m. This is the monthly meeting of the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, and calling it to order. And are there any changes to the agenda? I do have one. If it's okay with everyone, we're going to add resolution number 13394, approval of amended bylaws, Tompkins County Air Service Board. Can I get a first, Greg? Okay. Mike, you want to second that, or?
You can just add it.
What would you do if I didn't?
Not do it.
Second it himself.
Yes, I second it. Thank you.
Okay, it's just the three of us today. So all in favor of adding that? All right, we're all there. Okay. Jordan, we do have to actually vote on adding some to the agenda, correct?
As long as there's no objections, you don't need to vote.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're up to public comment, and I do have one person that wants to speak, and I'm just going to speak to the rules quickly. I know you've been here before, but I'm going to repeat them anyways. So I agree to a 3-minute time limit. I agree not to raise my voice. I agree not to use lewd, obscene, profane, slanderous, or libelous language, or speak or act in a manner that would tend to incite a breach of the peace. I agree not to speak about county personnel matters. Personnel matters include comments about the job performance of named county employees other than elected officials. You can jump all over them. So after 3 minutes, I agree to leave the microphone and yield the floor. Transferring time to another person is not permitted. And that's Ashley Miller. Jump right up.
I do solemnly swear. Good morning. My name is Ashley Miller, and I live at 126 Sears Street. And I know that some of you are familiar with me from discussions on the county-owned plots along Sears Street and the Red House property on Tioga Street. Events that have resulted in 4 INHS affordable new houses for sale and the sale of and preservation of a beautiful historic home, both actions that the county can be proud of. I live on Sears Street, but I've also owned a house on Iredell Road since 1987, so frequently drive past the wetlands on the south side of Iredell between Halseyville and Podunk Roads. For years, there has been a beaver colony there that routinely blocks the culvert under Iredell Road, bringing the water level perilously close to flooding the road. Anyone familiar with the work of beavers know that they don't quit. So the highway department regularly sends out a crew and equipment to unplug the culvert. This, as we know, is a temporary solution. Apparently, another solution exists, a device specifically designed to protect culverts called a beaver deceiver, made in Vermont by a company that's been in business for 24 years. Pictures on their website and brochure look exactly like the scene on Iredell Road. For 2 years running, I have sent this link to the head of the county highway department, who has chosen not to respond. And I would like to add that I have 3 close relatives employed in public works projects. So I'm always sympathetic to their challenges. However, when a county taxpayer sends what she thinks is a useful link that could save money and effort, it would have been useful to know whether or not this device has already been tried in another location or would cost more than sending out a crew and equipment year after year after year after year. My question is an economic one. Why does the county highway department routinely send out a crew, sometimes consisting of 4 county vehicles and heavy equipment, to remove the debris from a culvert when there is an American-made device especially designed to be a one-time solution to this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. I know that we've exchanged a few emails together, and this has been discussed in 2 recent meetings that we've had here. And Jeff Smith is here for his last facilities meeting, I believe. And we've talked about this quite a bit, and maybe we'll talk about it again. So, okay, now we're looking at the minutes approval of June 26, 25. Mike, Greg seconds. All in favor? Those minutes are approved. And the chair's report is that Lisa Shurtleff has been excused for personal reasons, and I'm the chair today, and that's my report. And then we're up to the county administrator's report.
Thank you. Very quick one. The relocation of county admin and HR is ongoing. We're very close to finishing that by the end of this week. We're also planning the deconstruction of the 3 buildings, being led by Ariel Facilities and Holt, our consultant. This week we're looking for some few items that we couldn't lay our hands on, but I think we finally got those materials we need, so everything is moving smoothly. And we continue to assess location for Board of Elections and Assessment Department. Our hope is to be able to get that all squared in time for our September target date to start the construction. So yeah, everything at the moment is moving on course, and we are not seeing any hiccups at this point.
Any questions for Corsa? Anyone? Okay, seeing none. We're going to move right on to the Highway Department. You guys are welcome to come up if you like. And we're going to start off with the quarterly highway capital status report.
All right, good morning, everyone. No action items, as you said. We have a quarterly status report. Usually I just kind of go through the various projects. We get there here. Here we go. There isn't a lot to talk about on these. And as I've said in the past, and I'm now aware, as we submit these quarterly, any changes from the last quarter are in red, but I'm aware that you don't get your copies printed in red, so you're not aware of any changes from last quarterly report. It doesn't jump out at you, although if you read it all, you could compare the two, and that would be pretty dry reading probably, but you could. So moving right along, we have first project is Podunk Road, Bridge New York project. It is somewhat stalled at the DOT at this time. There's many of these projects that are in that situation with DOT. That's kind of going to be the common thread. DOT, in their defense, has had some change in personnel, and they had a very sudden death in a very key person in their group. So filling that void, I'm sure, has been extremely difficult. And so, but that said, they have brought in more people, and one of the individuals that is now working with us used to work for the city. I know them very well, and we see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel is what I'm trying to say. We're hoping that the projects start to gain some momentum. So Podunk, we work with DOT, our project manager, Kelly Chapman, and Nick will be continuing to check in with DOT and make sure that it's moving along and try to hold them to dates. And that'll be similar for all of these projects. That's Podunk Road. If there's any questions specific about the project, please let me know.
I do have a question, quick question.
Yep.
And maybe this is something I just missed before. On the status, it states that you've submitted for reimbursement. Is that a new line item, or have you always done that? Saying when you submitted for reimbursement? I don't remember seeing that, but I'm glad you did. It's nice to see that it shows the activity, and I appreciate it.
Generally, yeah, that would be added to this, in this area, yeah. You'll see that number grow as we submit more and more reimbursements, yeah. Next one is Fall Creek Road over Fall Creek. This is, again, currently waiting on DOT response on a submittal from Labella, who is our consultant. All these at this time are on schedule. They haven't necessarily lost a year or anything like that. So working with Corsa and administration and putting our capital plan together. The capital plan, the funds are available. We're working through that. So nothing has slid that far. But as that changes, it will be updated. The Midline Road Culvert, the DAD design document, is back to DOT by the end of July. This one, we did hear a response from DOT with some questions for clarifications, and any day now, our consultant will be responding back to DOT to get the next step. The DAD is a very final document, getting very close to a phase where you're then looking for permission to bid, and you have a PS&E, which is plan, specs, and estimate. The estimate is what it's going to cost for the bid, what you anticipate the bids are going to come in at, and that would go to DOT, be approved, and you would get a permission to bid on the project. So that's getting really close. Cortlandt Street is a newer project as far as being on the tip. Little history, we did try doing this in-house. The bids were much larger than the funds we had available. We were able to apply and get this added to the tip through the recent update. And so at this time, the tip was updated in June. Now the project exists on the tip, and now there's a PIN, which is a project identification number. So now we can begin our work through getting it into a level of design that the state will approve. This project is already designed. It'll be the same design, but it now has to go through a few phases with the state to get their concurrence on them. We don't anticipate a long period of time. The idea is that we're going to move very quickly through the design approval phase with DOT, just making sure that they are comfortable with what we're proposing, and then it'll be able to go to bid next year. That's the plan. Falls Road Bridge over Taganek. This is a Bridge New York Award project. We have SLA is in place. We have selected a design consultant, and we're waiting for the master agreement, which has been returned to DOT. The legislature has approved the resolution to enter into the agreement with DOT, which is the SLA, or state local agreement, and that is now sitting on DOT's desks for their signatures. As soon as that's signed, this project, we've selected Fisher Associates. They will begin work on the design. And that's all she wrote.
So on the bridge over Taganek Creek, that's 90 years old. So
Yeah.
it's held up pretty well then.
It is. That's a buried structure. It's an arch bridge. It's a concrete arch with stone, real stone head wall and arch. If you look at it from the riverside upstream, downstream, it's a stone bridge. But if you get under it, look up, it's a concrete arch. The nice thing about that is they're very resilient to weather, and they tend to last and last really well. The downside of that is that you can't see what's going on the top of that concrete, and you get what they call effervescence through the concrete, and you know that there's some deterioration and weakening going on, but it's hard to grade how bad it is. So this bridge is nowhere near failure, but if you weren't paying attention to it, the arch could fail. The plan is to put New York State Parks is all around it. If you've been in the area, they've recently added a really nice, I'm not sure if it's open, kiosk, is there a gift shop there, bathrooms, and it's a parking area for the Black Diamond Trail. It's right on the Black Diamond Trail. It's a great, beautiful spot, beautiful building. But last time I went by, they were doing like some landscape work, so I'm not sure if it's open. And that will remove the parking area that's kind of been ad hoc being used, that's near the trail, that's off one of the corners of the bridge. So, I could go on, but what I'm trying to say is we're working very closely with Parks on that, so all the aesthetics is going to tie in well with what their plan is. This is a long project where there will be public meetings, public input, but we're partnering very much with New York State Parks.
Great, thank you. It's a big project.
Yeah, that was great. It'll look nice in the end. And I didn't know if we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, if you want to just talk about
Sure.
that culvert a little bit. Great.
Yeah, and I don't want to have my back to you, so.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. I hate that part, having my back to anyone while I'm talking. So I do remember receiving your emails. I did respond to the last email. I thought there were other emails attached to that, which would have been yours. Randy forwarded it to me. And I can find that. I started looking it up, and I'll forward that. But I'll send it to Randy. Maybe Randy can send it to. We talked about this last meeting, and I spoke, and Randy had asked about it, and I spoke to it. I did look at the videos. That absolutely works. It's a great idea, the Vermont idea. I think you would agree that is, in our opinion, it's a softer, it's a more homeowner type fix. It's made with wood and screen and netting and things like that to make them build the dam further up. And that would be outside of our right of way. That would involve our people going out into the waterway. I'm talking about the maintenance of it. There's always maintenance to something. At some point, that's going to fail. And the solution that we use all around the county is what we use there is a grate at the head wall that we can pull with a piece of equipment. Cost association wise, we could get you that. We could show you what that day costs with what's there. Usually there's probably extra people there because they're only going there, they're gonna be there for 5 minutes and then they're going off to do something else. So there would be probably, if we really just do it ourselves, and Nick can talk more about it, and I think our more recent solution is gonna be even easier, and it will be able to be pulled by a single person in a pickup truck. I do apologize for not answering your other emails. I didn't get that it was a direct request, question, but I would get that you were kind of sharing an idea. I would look at the idea and say, well, it's not, but I didn't take the time to respond. I apologize for that. But the last one from Randy, I did respond to, and I'll find that and make sure that it gets to you. And it talks the same sort of discussion I'm saying right now. I don't think it's correct in what we have the ability to work very, we have equipment, it reaches it, and we're able to stay on the hard surface of a road and work at it the way that we do now, and to think about extending it further out up into the right of way and things like that. We could do it, but I don't think I think it would just take more attention, more time, and force people to go out there and work off of our right of way.
Sure, if you want to comment, feel free.
Microphone. Microphone.
Thanks.
The land trust owns that property, so I would assume they'd be very cooperative with, either the solution you're proposing or the beaver deceiver.
Okay, and if they wanted to do something upstream and that, I mean, the land trust could do whatever they wanted to. Then it wouldn't even get to our road. It would be a pond. You're pushing water back, so it gets, there's a lot of dynamics to the water. This has been a very wet spring, so it clearly has been more of an issue this year.
I don't know what upstream would be in that situation because it's been a beaver wetland for so long.
Yeah, swampy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know one of the reasons that, we changed the culvert because the culvert was failing. It was, corroding and the bottom was rusting out. So in doing so, we put in a plastic one that's harder for them to plug a plastic pipe because it's a smooth interior. They struggle, they can still do it, but the corrugated steel ones, it's a lot easier for them. So we replaced it with a plastic and we built a head wall in a design that we can get there, hook a chain on our pickup, back up, pull it out, put it back in, and drive away. One person, 5 minutes. That was the thought. We've done it in a few other places, and it's worked well. The other thing there is we do get some comment from the landowner up on, I believe it's Tucker Road, right around the corner. So when that gets backed up, that floods the corner of his field. So we hear some excitement from them about taking care of the beavers and the water. And the other thing with the beaver deceiver, I believe is the name, that would work in an area where the water, if you could leave the water there. The problem where we're at is we can't leave it because we're going to flood the neighbor, and it puts all that water in the roadbed, the subgrade of the road. So if we left that for an extended period of time, that would start to deteriorate the road. So don't know if it's the best location for it, but there definitely is. And I was at a conference, one of our county conferences last winter, and talked to a group that, I don't know if it was the beaver deceiver, but same sort of idea, and kind of mentioned it to them, and we never really followed up. And I believe one of the people we talked to was fairly local. So I could reach out to them, and because we had the conversation, and then just show them, hey, this is where we're at. Their whole thing is to protect the beavers, and so we can coexist and not just trap them out and try to deal with it that way. So I can reach out to them, and we were going to set it up, and we got busy, and when we didn't. So that's something I could do just to see maybe there's something else besides what you have come up with or we have come up with. Maybe there's something in the middle.
Well, thank you. This has been clarifying.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for that.
Yeah.
That's a tough spot there. It's a real low ground there, and it's ponding, right? Yeah. And I'm sure the beavers love it.
Yeah, it's a big drainage bowl. It collects
Yeah.
water from a
Yeah.
large area.
Yep.
Thank you.
And Jeff, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll see me. I'll be around.
All right. Okay. I'm getting to my agenda, I'm sorry. All right, we are up to the airport. I see Roxanne is here, and we have a couple resolutions, but Roxanne, do you want to update us on anything first, or?
I think, today, just to let you know, a reminder on September 13th, Airport Day, that's a big thing. We're just trying to get that information out there. And, we're working hard. We appreciate, the passing of the strategic action plan on Tuesday. So that's something that we're going to be working hard on. We're going to start, we're going to have some discussion on that on Monday at our Air Service Board meeting. And get people involved, on the Air Service Board as well, helping us, with the strategic action plan. And that's kind of where we're at. Part 139 inspection that we undergo every year is due to begin, I believe, next week. So the inspector from the FAA will be here. And that's, it's a big thing. They inspect every asset or aspect of the airport. We've had great reports. Our team here and our crew does a great job. Josh and the crew really go all out, and they do it. It's a constant thing. It's not something that they just do for The inspection is something that they, work on daily. So that'll be coming up, and that's about it.
Great, thank you. We did add a resolution I assume this is where it goes under airport? Okay, so let's get this on the table. It's resolution number 13394, approval amended bylaws, Tompkins County Air Service Board. And can I get somebody to, Greg, and Mike seconds it. And is there any discussion on this?
There was just a few clarifying things within the bylaws, and that's why I had asked it to come back to this committee, and Katrina and team had taken some feedback from the legislators who reviewed this in some more depth, and I'll turn it over to Katrina, but it was just a few minor tweaks that we pulled it from last legislature meeting and just sent it back here so we could tighten things up.
There were basically just two amendments, further amendments. One was to clarify that originally the Air Service Board had 6 at-large seats. They changed those 6 seats to 2 at-large, 1 for the chamber, 1 for IAD, and 1 for general aviation. And then the other change that was to clarify the nominating subcommittee. And I added the language in the amended version. It's on page 3 of the document. And basically I'm going to ask the committee to pick the green section, which is just a short section that Dan had originally proposed as a change, or the blue section, which further encompassed an additional concern that Dan had in an email. So
Sorry, just to clarify, we either pick the
short
voted
little
on the
green.
next meeting or voted on the first meeting following January 1st. If a vacancy of an officer shall occur during a year, the nominating subcommittee shall meet and propose a new officer to fill said vacancy and present their nomination to be voted on at the next meeting.
Yes. It did.
And then we're adding the blue section or not?
You're going to pick if you would like to add the blue or green or neither.
I would add the blue.
Any comments on it, what people prefer? Mike?
I think just going with next meeting in the green is probably all we need to do.
I agree with that.
Sure.
Okay. So that's it. We're just going to add the nominating subcommittee shall then meet to propose a slate of officers to be voted on at the next meeting.
Okay.
Mike?
So does the Air Service Board want 10 members rather than 9? I mean, should we be adding another at-large person? Do they want, I mean, that was the question that came up in discussion about these bylaws, was it says 10 and then there were only 9 nominated or designated here. And I just kind of wondered what the board wants.
Roxanne?
Yep, I'm happy to speak on that. So initially, we were struggling at the initial thing on how to do this. And I think when we discussed it, 9 seemed like the better fit for voting purposes. You wouldn't have a split vote then. If we had an even number, you could have 5 and 5 if we were voting on something. So that, the 9 seemed like a good fit. And we did add some ad hoc members that aren't voting so that we could get some additional people in. So that's why we just switched it to 9. I think that was a discussion that we had last year.
Thanks, Roxanne, and I certainly understand wanting to have an odd number.
Yeah.
We also struggled in past with quorum and filling some of those at-large seats. So clarifying that was, I think, some of the intent of the Air Service Board too.
Any other comments on this? So all in favor of the changes? Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We're up to another resolution. It's a resolution authorizing a renewal of a memorandum of agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration to operate and maintain multiple navigational aid facilities at the Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID number 13430. Greg, first, and Mike, I get you a second, that one? Sure. Great, Mike, and so it's on the floor, and do you want to speak to this, Roxanne?
Again, sure. So this is, it's really just a paperwork to move. It was a 20-year lease before. The 20 years is up this September. It's for another 20 years. It just gives the FAA, because they come and have access to work on equipment here on the airfield, whether it be, any of the equipment that they own on the airfield, and it helps operational needs and keeps the airport operational and running.
And no money's changing hands here, correct?
Correct. Of course. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? No.
Okay, all right. Any comments or questions on this? Okay, all in favor of this resolution? That's approved. Okay, we're on to another resolution. It's the audit of final payment, Seneca Stone Corporation, Rehabilitate Taxiway A, Ithaca Tompkins Airport, ID 13415. And Roxanne, take it away.
We need to move
Oh,
it.
actually, just get on the floor first, I'm sorry. Greg, seconded by Mike. All right, now it's on the floor.
So this is release of retainage. This part of the project, the taxiway project is in multiple phases. We still have phases coming up in the capital plan. But this was a phase that was completed, I believe it was with a 2023 grant. So it's releasing the retainage. We withhold 5% retainage on construction projects to make sure that the project is complete and acceptable. So once that's done, this is the final payment to release the retainage. And if you notice in there, the project came in just shy of $10,000 less than what was budgeted, than what was bid. So instead of $465,000, it came in just under $455,000. So just over $455,000.
Thank you. Any questions for Roxanne? Okay, all in favor? And that passes. Great. I think that's it. Roxanne, is there anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's it for today.
Okay, well, stay cool, or try to.
Great, thank you.
The next one is, I brought this forward for the downtown facility discussion in the Center Government Building Project Financial Impact. And one of the comments we had from a constituent was whether this was the business case was correct for this project. And so there are many things happening here, moving departments and whatnot, and we're currently paying rent in some places. And we're also, for example, the courthouse. I'm not sure how the finances of the courthouse work, but we'll be vacating that. It's my understanding that the New York State will pick up more of the expenses of that building. So the thought was to somehow do a spreadsheet or something that's going to lay out, these are the benefits financially of doing this position. For example, we have the Office of Human Rights, which is down on State Street. We got Workforce Development that's paying rent in Center Ithaca. And when that moves to this new building, the state's going to start paying us some rent, for this. So the thought was, I realize it's going to cost a lot of money for this project, but it would be nice to lay out the financial impacts of this, positive and negative, and then just the capital plan as it moves forward. So would you like to comment on that, Corsa? I don't see a rel here, so.
Yes. Yes, I think eventually at some point we'll be able to provide the details of what this facility after construction will mean in terms of the county's finances. Some couple of months ago, I did indicate that I think around some of the public engagement sessions that we did, I did indicate that sometimes when it comes to significant government investment in office spaces, you cannot really establish a comprehensive business case because government sometimes doesn't make business decisions because of public need. At the moment, there are significant amount of expenditures we are doing which doesn't make business sense, but we have a mandate to provide those services. So it ties into some of these projects that we are engaged in many cases. But in terms of the financial impact, I will present that to you, I believe, if not at your next meeting, because we're trying to do assessment of the deconstruction, and that is taking a lot of time from our consultant. And as we move forward to the next phase of the presentation of schematic design, we will be able to provide also what that will mean in terms of the financial costs on the counties, and also the relief it will provide for us in terms of office spaces that are being leased out, or like you indicated, Department of Labor leasing from us a space for their offices. So that will come in. My understanding earlier of the question relates to what the impact of the project on county's expenses. And as I mentioned, we are aggressively going after as many external funding as possible. As I speak to you, I believe later on today, planning department is engaging with other state agencies to look at about 3 or 4 different funding streams that can come in to support the project as a whole, in terms of energy support and also other funding opportunity that have been announced. So we'll be able to provide that funding picture based on what grants we're able to tap into, and also the financial impact on the county if we move, or when we move forward, and also be able to move county department from lease spaces, and and we can project that over a course of time to see how that will demonstrate to the service provisions and other things. The other things that we cannot really financially quantify is the space quality on our employees. So we'll be able to maybe demonstrate how that can support employee awareness and the ability to do their work in a safe and controlled environment, and the spaces that we have control over, that our facility department will provide maintenance and efficiency and effectiveness of those spaces. For example, in some of our lease spaces, we don't have that control, and we are at the mercy of the landlords as to what work they do in those spaces. So we cannot put financial value on that, but we can put some intrinsic value in those, some of those aspects of the work. So yes, as we move forward, we'll be able to demonstrate a financial picture, and also the other benefit to employees, and also attractiveness in downtown, part of the downtown revitalization efforts that the state is investing in. And I believe the city of Ithaca is also applying for funding to bring some life back into the city. We can also show how that will impact over our overall picture of the city of Ithaca.
Any questions for Corsa on this? I don't think there's any major hurry for this financial asset, yes. But I would like to hope that we review this with this legislature. So maybe October or something to that line, because it's all the people here that have pushed this project forward over the years, and I just like them to understand really how it all hashed out.
Absolutely. We'll make sure as we get into selecting the design for the central government, which I believe will be either in September or October, you will have that data to also support your decision-making process at that time. Because I believe that, yes, we are working on choosing a design, which we hope to get that all squared up by September or October.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're moving on to transportation. Frank and Courtney, please come on up. Just like Price is Right, right? Just come on down.
Randy, could I say something more on downtown
Yes,
facilities? And that is, we've had a lot of discussions about the parking study and parking downtown. Already getting some feedback about Tioga Street parking. I think we need to open discussions right away with the city about getting some parking available in front of the buildings on Tioga Street, maybe Buffalo. I remember back when we were developing the new library building, the old Woolworths building, we wanted a couple of parking spaces and the city refused. So I just think it's time to start talking about that seriously with them before we go much further.
We actually, yesterday, the Health and Human Services Committee, we talked about parking with the Office for the Aging, and Lisa was here, and they talked about it. And they were able to work with the city quite a few years ago to get two handicap spots right close to their facility. And so I think that's probably a number one to make those things happen. But I agree, and of course has heard you, I'm sure. But if you want to comment, go ahead.
Yes, I think being here for the last 6 months, I would say we are having a really good working relationship with the city on many different aspects of programs or projects that the county admin is involved in the city. So as part of the conversation that will come up, and we will have that conversation as well in terms of how we utilize the spaces around the building in terms of handicap access and things like that. So it will be a comprehensive discussion we will need to have with the city. The city also desire or looking forward to or planning the renovation of the parking lot next door. And we'll be having discussion with them in terms of what role they hoping the county can play in that renovation of the parking lot as well, and how that can also be triggered into other discussions around the building. During our planning discussion with HALT, essentially if some or most of the parking around the building can be earmarked for disability access, that would be significant help. And as part of our engagement, especially in Enfield, they talked about having a parking allocated for parents with young children. And those are some of the things that we'll be able to discuss. And we have been collecting data in terms of how long staff or visitors have been spending in our various departments. And we are looking to get that information to feed into our conversation, so we'll be able to have a discussion in terms of how long cars will be parked at their spaces and how we will manage those processes and move things forward. So yes, definitely we will have that discussion with the city, and I think...
I just think
yes,
that the parking ramp aside, I think we ought to have a proposal that goes to the city of what we would like to have, and I'm sure that'll be negotiated, and I think the city would probably have to pass a local law to change whatever parking is down there. I know usually those are set in local law. Now, I don't know that for sure with the city charter, but I just think we ought to be proactive and say this is what we need down there.
Yes. And as part of the deconstruction, I am sure some of those parking lots around the building will need to be cordoned off for this construction exercise. So that conversation will need to be had as soon as possible, and there's planning in place to start having that discussion with them.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions on that? Well, welcome, Frank Courtney, for being here. Why don't we get the resolutions done, and then you can talk about your mobility study after that.
Perfect.
So the first resolution is authorizing 5475-2025-5 Federal Transit Administration Section 5307 Urban Formula Grant Application for Tompkins Consolidated Area Transit ID 13378. Can I get that on the floor? Mike, seconded by Greg.
Sure,
Take it away,
just-
Courtney.
just some background, all three of these resolutions are essentially the same. One of them's for the county, one of them's for TCAT, one of them's for Gadabout. Every year we get an allocation from the FTA for 5307 urban formula funds as a small urban area. We met with TCAT and Gadabout and we essentially decided how we wanted to split up those funds. In 2025, we were allocated approximately $4.6 million. So this first resolution is how TCAT wants to use this money. TCAT is taking about $3.2 million of this pool, and they're going to use it all for operating funds. Because it's for operating, this is going to be a 50-50 split. The FTA is giving them this $3.2 million, and then the state, through the state transit operating assistance, is going to provide a $3.2 million match, so it's 50-50 split.
Any questions from anyone? Yeah, I have one. So is this funding similar to what it's been in the past? Is it up or down or about the same? Or?
It's $86,000 more than last year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor of this resolution? And that passes. Okay, we're on to the next resolution, which is authorizing 5474-2025-6 Federal Transit Administration Section 5307 Urban Formula Program Grant Application for Gadabout ID 13379. Greg gets it up, and I guess second, Mike?
Yes.
Mike seconds, and take it away.
Great, this is the same pool of money. Gadabout is getting $700,000 of it. Gadabout also wants to use it all for operating, similar to TCAT, 50-50 split. State's gonna match it.
Any questions? I have the same question. Is this the same funding or?
It's the same funding, but based on the appropriation, Gadabout last year got $675,000. They used $300,000 for operating and $375,000 for bus purchases. So this year, they're using the full allocation for operating expenses, which is an increase of $25,000.
Okay, thank you for that. Did we vote on that one? Okay, so all in favor of this resolution? All right, all three of us. And we'll do one more resolution. This is resolution 5475-2025-4 Federal Transit Administration Section 5307 Urban Formula Program Grant Application for Tompkins County ID 13377. Can I get that on the floor? Greg, seconded by Mike, and take it away.
Third one here, same pot of money being taken by the county. We're getting $725,000. The way we've split it up is approximately $287,000 for project administration, salary, office cost, standard daily costs. We're taking $400,000 of those dollars for mobility management projects, which you'll hear about a little bit in this presentation, but those are all contracted out. And then $37,000 of those dollars we're using for the Tompkins Transportation Scout app, which is also contracted out. This is a little bit confusing because even though these are also standard daily costs, this is considered a capital project, not an operating project. So it's split 80-10-10. These funds are 80% covered by federal dollars. The state puts in a 10% match, and then 10% of it is covered by Tompkins County.
Thank you. Any questions?
Would you like me to answer?
Please.
Happy to. This year, because we still have old grant money to use, county old grant money from the FTA, we remained flat from last year to assist TCAT and Gadabout with the increase in costs that they've had with operating expenses.
Thank you. I'd like to comment, I like your write-ups, Courtney. It was very helpful. It's great for the record. Everybody who was reading that online or some way they could, it would make sense how you read it. So I really appreciate your write-ups.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, all in favor? That's approved. And now we're on to reports and discussion, update on mobility vision plan.
Great. now we can talk about exciting things. So we're going to give you a little bit of an update on the Mobility Vision Plan, which you all adopted last year. Thank you very much for that. Just a quick reminder, that was kind of focusing on transportation barriers that already exist in the county and strategies to remedy those barriers and get people access to transportation, especially for social determinants of health. So starting off, talking a little bit about mobility management, we have 2 programs that are currently going on in the county. The first one is our One Call, One Click Center, which is currently being run by Human Services Coalition. Through the One Call, One Click Center, residents can call to get help finding rides, scheduling trips, they can ask transportation questions, and they can also be connected with volunteer drivers. In addition to physically answering the phones and actually running this call center, HSC is conducting outreach across the county about transportation resources. They've been advertising and recruiting new volunteer drivers to improve access to social determinants of health, specifically for low-income individuals. In the first 6 months of 2025, the call centers received 904 calls specifically for transportation needs. Volunteer drivers have provided 160 trips to medical appointments, and HSC has given bus passes to 242 individuals who would not be able to afford them otherwise. Our second mobility management program is run by Go Ithaca, who's also focused on outreach in addition to offering a variety of transportation benefits to any resident of the county with increased benefits for low-income residents. They also are providing travel training. So far this year, Go Ithaca has spoken to about 250 people at 26 outreach sessions across the county. They've gone from Loaves and Fishes downtown to the Groton Public Library to West Village Community Room to Meals and Wheels in Slaterville Springs. You can also find them at the public library every other Thursday. This space has really been influential in helping them get TCAT passes, gadabout passes, and other transportation benefits to individuals who don't have a permanent address right now, and so who couldn't necessarily get them in the mail, so they can just walk in and talk to Go Ithaca there. So far this year, Go has broken down transportation barriers to get their 371 new members out of single occupancy vehicles. 208 of these new members are easy access members, essentially they're low income members. These statistics also that I just listed are again just for the first half of 2025 up until the end of June. In total, Go has about 900 easy access members that they're currently assisting.
So just to remind you of when we presented what the barriers were that we were trying to address. The limited rural access, the information gap of us not getting out there to low underserved communities, to let them know what was available so that they could have a better quality of life. Public transit routes in rural communities, as you're fully aware of, have been reduced. And the first mile, last mile challenges that I'm going to talk about in a minute on our progress there. Key word here is access to social determinants of health. One interesting aspect that's happened since you've adopted this plan is, I don't know if you're aware of it, but the 1115 Medicaid waiver. We're working very closely with the Care Compass Network in making sure that access is given to all. So some of the benefits that I just would like to explain briefly is they now have a funding mechanism for all transportation modes, taxi cabs, demand response, fixed route, gadabout, everything, to pay them to transport people that qualify in this enhanced service for transportation. The really exciting news to us, and we fought really hard for this with Care Compass Network to approach the state to get approval on it. Now these Medicaid clients that are in this enhanced service can now get free transportation to go look for a job, to fill out job applications, to get food, go to food pantries, find housing, and there's other aspects that we could spend hours on talking about, but this is looking like a very positive program to assist Tompkins County Medicaid client residents in providing them access. So as you can see, the base fee is $9.11. And for a place like Gadabout or any ambulette service, don't think of ambulette as ambulance. Ambulette is anything that has a lift that can get a person that needs access, $3 a mile. So this is opportunities for Tompkins County residents that might want to start considering running their own taxi cab service or demand response service, because we are very limited in our transportation modes in the county.
I've got a question from Greg.
Quick question.
Sure.
So for like the ambulette for $3 a mile, does Gadabout then bill Medicaid under this 115 waiver program? Or does the client have to submit and?
No, that's the benefit. So Medicaid clients currently have to go and get screened. The one place that's doing the screening right now is 211 HSC. They get screened by what's called a navigator. Once a navigator screens them and puts them into the system, it's called the Unitas system. That trip is put out there. Taxi cab company, Gadabout, anybody can accept that trip. Once that trip's complete, the software automatically bills Care Compass Network, and the payment is direct to whatever transportation provider accepted the trip. So there's no client need to pay for it first and then get reimbursed.
And this is happening in somewhat real time. Like I would call let's say I'm a person of Medicaid and needed transportation. I would call 211 Navigator. They would help me schedule to get to my doctor's appointment tomorrow or the next day or even today.
Not today. It's 3 days.
So 3-day plan.
Right. What they would do is they would call 211 if they were a Medicaid client, and then 211 Navigator would ask them a series of questions. Once those questions were answered, the system would determine if they're eligible for this enhanced service. If they are, then the navigator would say, what do you need for trips? Where do you need to go? When do you need to go? They would put that into the system, and then all the transportation providers that are on the network, which aren't a lot right now, would accept the trip, pick up the client, take them where they needed to go. Once the trip was complete, they would submit through the transportation mode, would submit through the Unitas platform, and would get paid by Unitas.
Great. Thank you for that clarity.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, Mike?
Yes, we have this, and it's a good idea, but we know that there's cuts in Medicaid coming, at the end of 26. Are these things going to be at risk?
Well, I think everything's at risk, but what I've been told is currently the money is being distributed I'll get back to you on the years.
Sure.
But there's always the possibility that, yeah, this could be affected. But right now, everybody's been getting paid and everybody's moving forward on this.
I guess what I'm wondering about whether they're, not necessarily what's in the pipeline right now, but are these programs going to be not funded in the future?
Very good question. It's the unknown based on what's happening currently. I can tell you that this 1115 Medicaid waiver has come in various forms throughout the years. They called it DSRIP one year, and then the last reiteration was DSRIP 2.0, and now they're calling it Medicaid waiver, 1115 waiver. I don't have the answer for that.
Well, I forgive you for that. I just, it's got me worried.
Mike, this came up in HED yesterday with the Sunflower House and the 115 waiver can also help with, or 1115 can also help with, I think, up to 6 months of housing.
Correct.
And the folks that came that work with the Sunflower House seem to indicate that this wasn't impacted by the big bill and some of the Medicaid cuts, that this was left in. But I think we should find clarity. I mean, of course, everything's a question mark at the moment, but they didn't seem to think that this was impacted maybe the way other programmatic cuts were being made.
Well, that's positive.
I don't-
That's positive news. Thanks for that, Greg.
That did come up yesterday as well.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what happens with the state budget right now and what's going to happen with that to better get maybe more clarifying answers on, is this specific Medicaid program going to be impacted? Okay, so continue. So I'm happy also to report, not definitely, but the state gave us full approval to apply for $125,000 for First Mile, Last Mile program and $125,000 for Rides to Recovery. We haven't been notified on the award yet, but everything's looking very positive. Our next steps are, I'm going to be seeking other funding, $175,000 for each program. That won't be coming to the legislators. I'm going to try to exhaust all my remedies with other entities that I'm hopeful that we might be able to get that match money. And I think that's really good news, but once you pass the resolution accepting the award, that'll be when we can celebrate. So I just wanted to go over our timelines and tell you where we are with our timelines. We've achieved the RFP and awarding the contracts for mobility management, one call, one click center that Courtney spoke about. We are continuing discussions throughout the county with nonprofit agencies that have transportation to try to include them in our network to build capacity for transportation modes. Rides to Recovery and First Mile, Last Mile are on target, and we're hopeful that we're going to be successful.
Great. The last thing we have today is a quick discussion about our Tompkins Transportation Scout app, which officially launched on April 17th. This app, there's also a corresponding website, so you can think about it how you wish, but I'm going to keep saying app just for this presentation. Has a few exciting features. The first is a trip planning feature, something similar to Google Maps or Apple Maps, where essentially you can set where you are, where you're going. It'll give you all of the bus routes that go there, the driving directions, walking directions, biking directions. But where it goes beyond these other trip planning apps is that it has all of the other local resources as well. It includes options such as Gadabout, Fish Volunteer Driver Services. It has all of the bike share and the car share locations. It also includes a carpooling feature on this same section of Finding Rides, where essentially you can put in whether you're willing to give a ride or you're hoping to get a ride, and then it'll match you with people who are going to similar places. Carpooling is something that's traditionally been really difficult to set up in Tompkins County, and so I'm really excited about this feature. Last week, I met with a woman who came into our office wanting to start carpooling for her congregation on Friday nights to get to service. I helped set her up in the app and get other members of her congregation set up so that they can actually organize their own carpooling. They can put in when they're going and where they live, and then they can match themselves, as opposed to having to go through somebody else or kind of come up with a really long Excel spreadsheet to figure out where everybody lives. In addition, for people who aren't maybe as tech savvy or don't necessarily want to figure out how to use the app, our one call, one click center is trained in the back end of all of this, and so they can just call the call center and then they'll help find a carpool for them and get them all set up. In addition, this app includes our emergency ride home program, where individuals can get a free Uber or free Lyft ride if they have some kind of emergency in their transportation that they usually take fails. For example, their carpool driver is sick. Maybe there's some emergency and the bus never shows up, and so now they need to get home. Maybe their child is not feeling well, and so they need to leave early to pick them up from school. Since our launch in April, we have about 150 total accounts created and 2,500 recorded trips. I think I actually checked yesterday based on from when I created this slide to now. Because it's so new, these numbers are quickly increasing. I think we're up to about 2,900 recorded trips. And you can also see that we have an average of 7 parking spots saved per weekday, which I know is something that's very important to people in the county. Currently, we're also working in collaboration with our mobility management organizations, TCAT, Gadabout, Bike Walk, Bike Share, and Car Share, to run an exciting 3-week event competition type thing in September, where individuals can earn points for taking sustainable modes of transportation or not driving by themselves, or also attending a series of in-person events we're hosting during that time. We wanted the event not only to incentivize people to take these alternate modes of transportation as opposed to driving themselves, but also to act as a learning experience and walk people through what resources actually exist in the county. And so some of these events will include a lighted bike ride run by Bike Walk Tompkins. Participants can get points from attending travel training, learning how to use the bus, how to ride the routes. TCAT and Gadabout will both be at airport day with buses, and so going to talk to them there. Or learning about how they could become a volunteer driver. If you all feel so inspired as a legislature, you should create a team and, show the county what you've got. That is all from us today. In the interest of time, I'll stop if you have any questions. Just wanted to say again, thank you all so much for your support in all of these projects.
Any questions? Mike?
Nice report, Courtney.
Thank you.
How do we comfort carpool drivers who have their own vehicles and who take on a lot more risk by having a lot more passengers if there should be an accident? Do we have any kind of blanket insurance, for example, that could cover these people in addition to their own private insurance, or is it just we hope for the best?
All right, just to clarify, you're talking about carpool specifically, not volunteer drivers.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to say something? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we as a county aren't taking the risk. The risk is with the driver of the vehicle.
Right.
There's nothing that we're doing as a county from an insurance standpoint, if that's what you're asking.
No, what I'm asking is, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that might be willing to carpool if they weren't worried about liability.
I agree with you. And I don't have an answer for you on the liability issue. I mean, people currently are taking friends and stuff and carpooling to work and giving friends rides, so I don't know how to answer that.
Something that's not necessarily insurance related, but that you can put on the website when you're looking for a carpool is all of these people in the congregation have a little note of saying this is where they're going to Temple, this is the service, and so they may only feel comfortable going with somebody they know or that are going to the same service as opposed to some random person going to somewhere nearby. And so that, I think, makes people feel a little bit better sometimes of carpooling with somebody they know from their office or somebody that they know from a certain activity.
But the liability insurance question is a good question, and
I mean, it just seems to me that I don't know whether there are any blanket insurance that if we're trying to get people to carpool, if there's some incentive we could have some way with some insurance agencies or insurance companies that would be maybe like we have backup insurance if for the county for high liability amounts that come in after the basic insurance. I just wonder if something like that might make carpool drivers more comfortable.
You bring up a great idea, and we'll put it on our list and maybe talk to some insurance agencies and reach out to some insurance agency and say, is there any possibilities here? But it's a great idea as a way to increase carpooling.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like insurance companies will insure anything they can underwrite. So there's got to be a market for something. I rent boats on a daily basis, and you can opt to select for your 8-hour ride out on the water if you want insurance to cover any damage or not. So I'm sure there's probably something out there. It's a good point, Mike, that you raise, because it is more of a litigious society than ever before. Just questions on metrics. We saw some interesting numbers in utilization, and it sounds great to us. But is there a way to compare those, or their standards or benchmarks on where we should be? Is that, those numbers look great, and I'm sure they are, and congratulations. But is there a way to know, like, hey, we're on pace, or we've got 11% utilization, and we should, our target's 15? Are there those type of metrics that we can start to incorporate into the conversation, or benchmarks in similar sized communities that have had these type of services established? Or are we really sort of on a new path forward and we just need to sort of track year over year utilization? Just trying to understand how to better understand the metrics.
Yeah, so for both of our mobility management contracts, we have a set of performance metrics in the contracts. When we were coming up with those, we did a lot of research and discussion with both of the organizations to figure out what could be both a high-reaching goal and also attainable. Every quarter, each organization submits to me a mobility management report, essentially what they've done this quarter, whether they've met their performance metrics, and then we go through together all of the metrics. If they haven't met it, we have a discussion and create a plan of how we can meet it next quarter. So then that's kind of our internal performance metrics. In addition, because we're getting money from FTA for these projects, there's a third-party kind of consultant through the FTA who's overseeing things. So they have their own reporting as well that we've been doing to them throughout the process.
For the MOS project on the app, they have data analysis and they have benchmarks that they want us to achieve. And we incorporated that into each contract, specifically for the MOS project for the FTA evaluators. And what we started doing this year is putting metrics in each of the service contracts that we have so that we can have an accountability and see where we need assistance with. But the benefit to those performance measures is, in my 2.5 years here, we're starting to see collaboration and working together, not to discourage people from not achieving those goals, but working together so they can achieve them. So that's how we're evaluating. Those are the performance measures that we're using in everything that we do. And at the end of the year, maybe the beginning of next year, we'll give you a full year report with the performance metrics and all of that.
That would be great.
Katie, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that this is a very important topic, and it's something that Frank has been working on since he was hired here to bring this kind of added rigor and reporting and all kind of rowing in the same direction approach to these contracts. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Frank on that, because I think it's very important work.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a big fan of, anytime that we can have, I guess, it's a level of accountability, right? For the contracts, for the staff, for the community, for us to know what's being effectively utilized and et cetera. So I look forward to, beginning of next year, a summary recap of those metrics.
I was listening to somebody who's associated with the village of Ithaca, and they're doing some carpooling there. Are you in communication with them? And I think they mentioned something about some insurance thing that they've done for ride sharing, and so you are in communication with them?
Yep, we've met with them a few times. They've also been in partnership with Go Ithaca. They've become essentially a member organization of Go Ithaca, so they get bus passes and other resources. Their insurance is more because they're all associated with minors, and so transporting minors, they need a whole level of other insurance. Theirs is more of a volunteer driver program as opposed to a carpooling program, but we are talking to them as well to see how we can collaborate with other volunteer driver networks. There's kind of a lot of pockets in the county of Love Living at Home, McGraw House, to see how we can kind of consolidate them all to be more efficient.
Great, thank you for that.
And Village at Ithaca was successful in the Medicaid 1115 waiver with getting a vehicle and approval for navigation. So they now will be able to get Medicaid clients into the system to find out if they qualify for the enhanced service. And now they also have a vehicle where they can accept transportation trips. And because they focus on the youth, we now have a transportation mode that, for the youth, that we can get to social determinants of health, which I think is a great thing.
That is a good thing. Anything else on mobility? I've got a separate subject. So recently the Ithaca Area Economic Development completed their strategic plan. And in that data, they talked about the number of employees that are coming to Tompkins County to work. And I believe it was 20,000, maybe 21,000 people coming from outside the county to work here. So I know that's a lot. And I know the county did a survey as well, and I don't know how that affects similar numbers or not. So is that on your radar, though, is how to look at, all the people coming here that maybe could carpool or some other way, or?
Yeah, so that's definitely something we've been thinking about. We've been in contact also with regional mobility managers, so all the transportation people in the counties around us as well. We're meeting with Melissa Potter from Cortland next week, as Centro now has changed or has come in to replace Cortland Transit, to make sure that people know how to get into Tompkins County. The app as well includes, I mentioned, these kind of local resources of transportation, but it also includes the whole state of New York. Clearly no one's, commuting from New York City to Tompkins County every day, but it will show you, here's how you take Skylar Transit, here's how you can transfer to TCAT and then come in. You can also carpool. I know there's some people in our office who live in Binghamton and are looking for carpooling to get to work, and so there's carpooling anybody coming into the county. As well, Go Ithaca is for residents of Tompkins County, but also anybody who can commute into Tompkins County. So anybody coming in can benefit from their transportation resources as well.
The other thing, just as a reminder, we worked hard last year and made the connection from Cortland Transit to TCAT at TC3 to make it seamless. That's going to be an ongoing process that we're working on. And I was in a meeting 2 weeks ago, and I get the counties mixed up, but we have a county that is in desperate need that wants to get connected with TCAT and can't. Skylar, thank you. Skylar County that comes in. We're in talks right now of doing the same contract we have with Cortland to have them come into Tompkins County, and they're really excited. They want to drop off at Green Street so that people can get to work, connect with the TCAT buses to get throughout the county, and then also be downtown. So that's in the works right now. It is on our radar, and we'll continue working on it.
Great, thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions for the transportation folks? Anything you'd like to add?
Thank you. Appreciate all the support.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're on to, are there any committee member reports? Mike?
Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council met this week, the joint planning and policy committees. I mentioned on Tuesday night that with the retirement of the director, Fernando de Aragon, we've been searching for a replacement, and the search committee and now the policy committee has selected someone and is in negotiation, and we expect to have an announcement on that fairly soon. It'll be coming out, and I think folks will be pleased. It'll be someone who folks are familiar with. Another retirement that's happening is Dave Smith, who is the Region 3 Director of Department of Transportation, New York State Department of Transportation. He's been in that position for 9 years, and he's always been very easy to work with, particularly like when we did the study about Route 13, he was particularly helpful. So he's going to be missed. We heard from him and the other representatives from DOT that they are short-staffed up there, and there's one of the departments that works on some of these projects normally has 35 people, and they're down to 17, we were told. So that's an issue. And then Dave talked about the project of the, it's not a total rebuild, but it's a repavement project for Route 13 through the city of Ithaca, scheduled to happen this year. The bids came in about $7 million in excess of what was expected. He said a lot of that had to do with the fact that it will be done, that DOT wants it done at night, a lot of it, which means lights and all of that. That's what they did the last time it was done, I can remember. But because of that, he said some of the bidders that we would normally think about taking on the project here, like Suit Coat and Economy Paving, did not bid. And DOT had to come up with either a couple of things. They decided that they still wanted to do the night paving because of the traffic congestion and other things through the city. And they also decided that they wanted to do it this year. Sorry. But they wanted, so they have come up with additional funding, taking money from projects that weren't ready to go yet. So that is supposed to move ahead. Contracts hadn't been signed, but Dave Smith said that he didn't anticipate any difficulty with getting this moving and working on it this year.
So that's pretty quick. I mean, it's July, right? So and the road definitely needs it. I tell you, when I drive that road, it's bumpy. People, and, you watch people going around things, and it's also like NASCAR sometimes going up through there. So I'm going to hope that something happens.
That's what I had to report.
Great, thank you. Any other reports? All right, that's it, and we're adjourned.